Rangers find a way to beat the Buffalo Sabres by a score of 5-4 in overtime, with the game-winning goal scored by Keandre Miller, who has really been great the last few months on both sides. His game has really come along offensively, and he's had a knack for the clutch. He really comes through when it counts, when you think about it. He had a big goal at the end of regulation against the Seattle Kraken before the long, what was supposed to be Olympic break. He had a shootout winner against the Boston Bruins. And there's been some other key, for someone that doesn't score a whole lot, he's had some pretty big moments. But the bigger thing is defensively, he's been awesome. So Keandre Miller, obviously a big storyline with him getting the game-winning goal. But this is a game that I feared the Rangers, there was a chance that they would take it lightly, even though they knew that they shouldn't. And this was a game where when the Rangers really wanted to turn it on, they did. And they were definitely the better team than Buffalo. Also, Alex Georgiev was in net for this one. And what a difference between this one and his last start against Carolina. He had played in relief against the Devils. I didn't think that Georgiev would go in this one, but I guess it goes to show that they really don't want to work Igor too much, because Igor is going to play against Pittsburgh, and Georgiev will play against Detroit the next night. There's just no question in my mind. I don't want it to happen, but Georgiev will be the starting goaltender at Detroit. And so for me, I felt like Shesterkin maybe would have played in this one. It didn't happen, but it doesn't matter. The Rangers get the 2 points. So there's some blame to go around. The Rangers get off to a hot start, and then it kind of slips a bit. They lose the lead. They fall behind, but it goes back and forth. But the Rangers were the better team, and they get the all-important 2 points. And the interesting thing is that Pittsburgh, after a really bad performance against the Rangers, they went 11-2. Yes, 11-2 against Detroit. So a couple of interesting things with that. Rangers-Pittsburgh is going to be a very interesting game on Tuesday, with the Rangers having really thoroughly outplayed the Penguins the last game. But then also on the flip side, the next night against Detroit, that will be Detroit's next game. So Detroit is going to be coming off an 11-2 loss against the Penguins and then playing the Rangers on Wednesday night. So I don't think it's going to be easy to win both those games. I don't know if that happens, but I really hope the Rangers can beat the Penguins. That's the key game. I know it sounds ridiculous to just say, oh, well, if they beat Pittsburgh, they'll just lose to Detroit. That may not happen that way, but those are going to be 2 really difficult games for many reasons. And so I hope the Rangers will be ready to go for that Pittsburgh game. But as far as this Buffalo game, same lineup for the Rangers. What I'll say is, and there was an injury in this game, as far as the defense goes, it was Nemeth Schneider again. And I got to think Justin Braun will work his way back in the lineup. And I'd want to see how it works out with him and Schneider. They're both right-handed defensemen, but maybe Braun on his offside. Now, when he spoke about it, it sounds like it's saying like all players say, wherever the coach needs me, that's where I'll go, and he could do it if asked. But I don't think it's something that they really want to do, but it might be necessary. I really think that Braun with Schneider is something that you need to at least consider. But what I will say is I don't know if they're going to try that in a big game against Pittsburgh. That might be more likely for Detroit. I don't think that. Chances are, to me, it will be Nemeth and Schneider again against the Penguins, because you don't want to test that out. But again, you did trade a 3rd-round pick for Justin Braun, and so it is still good to have that defensive depth, absolutely. But I think that we will see him again. But I thought maybe that could have come in this game, but it didn't. And so the Rangers get off to a really hot start. Really, the story of this game should have been Frank Vatrano. And he is one of the key players in this one. And it looked like, maybe he would get a hat trick, because what happens is Frank Vatrano at 3:59, a 2-on-1 with Chris Kreider, and Vatrano decides to shoot the puck and score. Vatrano really showed some good speed. It's, at this point, his 3rd goal as a Ranger. Another early goal for Vatrano, as he did against the Penguins, although that was the 3rd goal of that game against Pittsburgh, but it was still early on, still around the same time. But Vatrano wouldn't be done there. Vatrano, on an unassisted goal, scores on a mini breakaway past Craig Anderson, And so Vatrano scores 2 goals in 18 seconds. That's the fastest 2 goals in that short of a span by the same player since Jaromir Jagr did it in 2005. That was in 15 seconds. This was in 18 seconds, but Vatrano really single-handedly gives the Rangers a 2-0 lead. And Vatrano is going to stay on that line with Zibanejad and Kreider. It's worked well. And Vatrano is someone, he has scored 24 goals before in a season. This is a 20-goal. This is basically a 20-goal score. He has 14 goals with still about 16 or so games left, and he really didn't get that much ice time on the Florida Panthers. So now he's getting this opportunity. He's going to be a free agent this season, so the motivation is really there. And so it seems like a good fit, and he's made it work. So Vatrano, like I said, 2 goals in 18 seconds. That was huge. And the Rangers continued to play well after that, but they couldn't make it 3-0. And that, as we've seen, is very important. You get that third goal, it changes everything. Like with the Devil game, it was only 2-0. With the Penguin game, it was 3-0. And we saw the results of those games. So it's 2-0 Rangers. And let's move ahead towards the end of the first. Ryan Strome makes a turnover in his own end. And it leads to a goal by Rasmus Asplund, his 6th goal of the season at 18-12 of the first. And, Trouba was kind of in a tough spot in front. Nothing that Georgiev could do in this goal. Asplund was wide open, but really it was the Strome turnover that led to this. And then what happens is, and at this point, I've said it for a long time, I think Ryan Strome, he makes mistakes and is not demoted ever. No benchings. He doesn't lose any ice time. And so I've come to find that in the second period, they start the period with Copp centering Panarin and Mott. So I got excited. All right, Strome finally got demoted. But no, Strome left the game with a lower body injury. So Gallant says it's nothing serious. My guess would be that we don't see him play against Pittsburgh, but anything's possible. But it doesn't sound like it's anything long-term. But this is a chance for other players to step up, specifically Andrew Copp. And the interesting thing here is I think he's been fantastic. But actually, and he really, it'd be very useful for him to play center looking ahead to next season, possibly with decisions needing to be made. But Copp really didn't play all that well when he was at center in that brief time. So eventually later in the game, Barclay Goodrow was moved up to that line, and Goodrow played center, and it worked a little bit better. So that is kind of the interesting thing. So even though Copp has been really good, and I love what I've seen from him so far, in that short instance, he did look better on the wing than a center. So we go to the second period, and that was a really big goal by the Sabres, and it kind of turned things around. It kind of carried over to the second period, where Will Butcher scores his 2nd goal of the season at 2:06 of the second period, ties it up at 2. I think that's probably a goal that Georgiev would like to have back. The Hedl line was on for that goal. They played well. The lines juggled a lot. With 11 forwards, it was, the Zibanejad, Kreider, Vatrano line stayed the same. And eventually, like I said, it was Panarin with Goodrow and Copp. But then the other 5 forwards, Hedl, I guess, with Lafreniere was a mainstay. But really, between Mott and Brodzinski and Hunt, it all kind of shifted. But I thought the depth forwards did play well, even though on this shift, the Hedl line is on for the goal against. Braden Schneider probably could have done a better job breaking the play up. He kind of let it go through, and it leads to the goal. So Nemeth Schneider pair was on for that one. So not the most defensively responsible player is on for that goal, but also a goal that maybe Georgiev doesn't want to allow. Then Kyle Okposo gives the Sabres the lead. 3-2 Sabres, 6:48 of the period. And this is a play where Okposo goes by Adam Fox. Adam Fox, I just don't think he's been playing all that well. And I know the statistics would tell you otherwise. A lot of that is on the power play, but Adam Fox has simply not been great. And this is someone who has been amazing and will be. He's obviously one of the best defensemen in the league. He won the Norris Trophy and deserved to, but just have to call it as I see it. That was a bit of a soft play by Fox, but also Georgiev can't let that go by him either. It slides through Georgiev, and the puck stayed on the ice, and I don't know how it went through him, but it did. And so Okposo gets the goal and gives the Sabres a 3-2 lead. But the Rangers do respond. The Rangers, there was actually a breakaway opportunity for Lafreniere, which Craig Anderson saves, but soon thereafter, Lafreniere extends his point streak to 6. His 15th goal of the season, all in even strength. Good assist by Hedl, as he did against the Penguins on the Lafreniere goal in that game. And then Johnny Brodzinski, who was on at that point in time on that line, also contributes with an assist as well. So Lafreniere, we cannot ignore the fact that 15 goals at even strength, that's extremely good. He is really coming on. So the reason why the stats aren't as grand as they are is this is a guy that does not get much power play time. But Lafreniere, the increase in productivity and just overall play the last few months has been just a dramatic shift. It's been great. Lafreniere, things are coming together for him, and he's really contributing. And it didn't stop there, but the Rangers do tie it up at 3. So this would, again, be another comeback win for the Rangers, even though it really shouldn't have gotten to that point. So it's 3-3 headed to the third, and the Rangers score pretty early in the third. And also, after the Lafreniere goal, the Rangers did have their one power play, a 2-minute men on the ice penalty on Buffalo, which may or may not have been too many men, and the Rangers had chances but did not score. So in the third, the Rangers take the 4-3 lead as Artemi Panarin gets the goal. 17th goal of the season. He has not scored a whole lot, especially at even strength. And he gets that goal assisted by Trouba, who took the shot, and Andrew Copp gets the assist. So this was a play off the face-off where Goodrow wins it. Copp retrieves the puck, gets it back to Trouba at the point, takes a nice shot, and Panarin bangs in the rebound. That's the type of goals you want to see. And it's the type of goal that, just an observation, like if Strome were on the ice, I don't know if they would have won the face-off. That's a fair criticism. And then Panarin, you don't see him in that position a whole lot. And maybe he would have been regardless. It's a little unfair, but that line did work pretty well. Copp and Goodrow, very responsible two-way players who can chip in offensively with Panarin. And so they look pretty good. And I at this point, if Strome's out, probably expect to see that as your second line. So Rangers take a 4-3 lead. And the Rangers were playing good in the third. Patrick Nemeth takes a penalty. So Nemeth took a penalty last game that resulted in the one goal the Penguins scored, and he takes one here, and you just can't do that if you're Patrick Nemeth. When your spot in the lineup, in my mind, is not all that secure, you cannot be taking penalties like that. And I believe it was called high sticking. It was, as he high sticked Gergensen's. And not a surprise, and this wasn't Georgiev's fault, but still 17 shots, he faced. How many shots did he face? 17. He allowed 4. It's a goal for Jeff Skinner, his 27th goal of the season on the power play. So the Rangers' penalty kill has not been great lately either. You hope for that to improve. It had been better previously. And so it is 4-4, and we eventually head to overtime. And there were some back-and-forth chances. Sabres had opportunities, Rangers had opportunities, but the Rangers would win it. As Andrew Copp feeds it to Alexis Lafreniere, who makes a really nice pass over to Keandre Miller, who buries it home for his 6th goal of the season. And the Rangers win 5-4 in overtime against the Sabres. That was the same score that they beat Buffalo at the Garden in the game where Ryan Lindgren scored with less than a second to go in regulation. So the Rangers beat the Sabres all 3 times this year, but really none of them were pretty. But they got the job done. So we'll see what happens now. If Ryan Strome's out of the lineup, at that point it becomes interesting. I tend to think that it's going to be either Reeves or McKegg that draws into the lineup. And to me, neither of those is really ideal. And I know this sounds crazy in terms of fan popularity between these two players, but if it's between those two, and I don't think Julien Gauthier is really in the mix, I think that's safe to say at this point, I think I'd prefer McKegg in there than Reeves. But I'm not going to make a big deal about that because I'm not a big Greg McKegg fan, obviously. But that would be my opinion and thought. It's tough because I view McKegg and Reeves as, sort of favorites of Gallant in some ways. But as much as I want Strome demoted, I would like Strome in the lineup over those guys. So we'll see how that goes. But a really big game coming up against the Penguins. The Rangers are 1 point behind Pittsburgh with a game in hand. So this game really looms large as far as who really takes over that second spot. If the Rangers win a regulation, they'll be ahead by a point with a game in hand. If they lose, they'll be back. They'll be behind Pittsburgh 3 points. So I expect a very interesting game, probably more similar to the game that we saw at Pittsburgh. I guess a month back or however long ago it was. And Pittsburgh will tighten up a bit. Malkin will be in the lineup. He had a hat trick in the 11-2 win over the Red Wings. So that will be, again, another critical game against the Penguins. Igor will be back in net, and I'm very excited to see how that game goes. But again, Keandre Miller, the hero, as the Rangers win it in overtime, 5-4.